from the Unreasonable Doubt Studios, in association with Spitner Productions, this is Laying Down the Law with your host, Billy DeClercq, and co-hosts, Kristen Drenning and Curtis Rutherford. Featuring a jury of genius jokesmiths and paneled with the help of Publishers Clearinghouse, auditors from the firm of DCH Lottery Management, and selected by random draw from a hermetically sealed mayonnaise jar every Tuesday and Thursday at never. Only a madman would bring these people together to construct an entire virtual world of law and order, simply to tear it asunder with ruckus laughter. That madman is attorney Billy DeClercq. The result is a podcast blasted to the farthest reaches of the interwebs. That podcast is this one, and it starts right now.
Welcome to Laying Down the Law. I'm your host, Billy DeClercq, and I am the master of coherent nonsense. I'm here today with some guests. But first, let's hear from our co-host.
I'm co-host Kristen Drenning, actual lawyer, commander of jargon and mumbo jumbo. That was written by Billy. Storyteller, improv teacher here in Austin, Texas.
Well, would you say you're not a commander of mumbo jumbo?
No, what I would say, in fact, is that I'm a lover of lingo, a slinger of slang, a paragon of patter, or a queen of the colloquialism. Thank you.
Dang! That's great.
I'm Lauren Michaels, procrastinator extraordinaire. Somehow I've arrived to be witnessed today by these fellow humans. Please welcome the most amazing Canadian you've ever heard. Two-time Canadian comedy winner, Doug Morency.
Hey, Doug. Welcome back.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for that impromptu introduction. So great.
And we do note that it was in the category of Best Male Performer. That's an important credit. And I'm just looking through your Wikipedia page, and God, Doug, it is long, really long. But I'm just wondering about this reference to Montreal de Lens. Let's see, am I pronouncing that right? Montreal de Lens. Montreal de Lens. It's in the commune of Brittany.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did that figure into your bio there, Doug? I just wonder. I mean, I know you're Canadian and there's Montreal in Canada, but please elucidate us.
Well, it just every once in a while it's like a fluke. Did you ever see that documentary Searching for Sugarman about the guy who became very big in South Africa? For some reason, my comedy really hit big in this very specific part of France.
This one little small town.
I didn't even know I was speaking that dialect, and I was magically, and they get it, and they find jokes where really I didn't even know they were there, and it's one of those flukes of nature.
Yeah,
Wow.
You can't even visit anymore.
No, it is. It's impossible to sit down and have a cup of coffee, in peace.
Perfect. Well, in all seriousness, Doug, I have been dying to ask you about this because my son Spencer and I are big fans of the Tim Robinson Show. I Think You Should Leave. We've already streamed all of season 3. We've memorized most of seasons 1 and 2. And on my third time watching, I was just, watching the credits as one does. And I saw your name and I was like, there can't be two comics named Doug Morency. There just can't. And I went back and I watched the entire episode and I was like, is he in which sketch? I don't. So please tell us about your experience on the show.
Yeah. I shot a really, I thought, funny, stupid, silly scene. It was part of a longer bit, and we unfortunately just got cut out. But I'm still getting residuals for it, so that's okay.
That's great.
Right? But
yeah, I mean, isn't that the best of all worlds?
Exactly. But yeah, it's but I love that show too. It's like hilarious.
Well, yeah, and I that caused me to do some digging and found out that Tim really did come out of Second City in Chicago, right? And so I know a lot of Second City people in the early episodes, especially.
And this this season as well, a bunch of like Second City people from way back when.
Yeah, that's so great. I love when people are like doing really well and they're real loyal to the people that kind of help them get there. That's awesome. Yeah, and I had done some, and I guess when they shoot their sketches, they're like long, and then they just kind of like trim them down and see how things turn out, and then they just tighten it. So I've been frequently, as a sketch writer, frequently told my sketches are too long, but I'd say, you know what, Tim Robinson could do it. I could do it too. In my Cons 4 class, I wrote a 12-page sketch.
I think that's called a thesis. Isn't that called
like, what the hell? He's like, I'm still timing you. This is supposed to be 3 pages.
Right.
I'm like, anything worth doing is worth doing long. So awesome. Well, I think that makes you one of the biggest stars that have been on this podcast. Honestly, yeah. So congratulations. 2-time Canadian Comedy Award winner, Doug Morency. Yep. Mm-hmm. And such a humble guy. All right, before we get into our law stuff of the week, I want to just do a segment. And this is from Abraham Lincoln. It's going to get a little serious here for a minute because we're going to talk about professional responsibility of lawyers today. And I just love this bit from Abraham Lincoln. It's called Notes of a Law Lecture from July 1st, 1850. And this section near the end is just some great writing by our 16th president. Sorry, Doug, not yours. But Abraham Lincoln really belongs to everybody. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. So there is a vague popular belief that lawyers are necessarily dishonest. I say vague because when we consider to what extent confidence and honors are reposed in and conferred upon lawyers by the people, it appears improbable that their impression of dishonesty is very distinct and vivid. Yet the impression is common, almost universal. Let no young person choosing the law for a calling for a moment yield to the popular belief. Resolve to be honest at all events. And if in your own judgment you cannot be an honest lawyer, resolve to be honest without being a lawyer. Choose some other occupation rather than one in the choosing of which you do in advance consent to be a knave. Pretty good from Honest
Powerful.
Abe there.
Very powerful stuff.
Put that on the wall of the law school bathroom is what I say.
Oh,
That's what he opened with for the Gettysburg Address, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah.
He started with that.
Just went from there to, it was like like a preamble to the preamble.
Yeah.
That's t-shirt slogan territory if I've ever heard anything. Right
Yeah.
there.
Well, there's the section above. I love even more because he says discourage litigation. It's this whole thing about I frequently quote it, but basically, that a lot of times the nominal winner is actually a loser in terms of waste of time and fees and whatnot. I take a great deal of inspiration from that. Legitimately, this being a comedy podcast, notwithstanding, I do actually take some inspiration from that. So I was recently listening to my own podcast, and I remember an episode a few weeks back. Producer Jeff pointed out to me that we should not necessarily call the case of the week, the segment that I was calling the case of the week. We shouldn't really call it the case of the week. We should call it something else like the concept of the week, because, while we frequently use case law meaning, plaintiff versus defendant, and something happened and then it gets appealed, but that's case law, that I frequently rely on case law to teach in the episodes as we do in law school. And Jeff said, maybe you didn't want to expand a little, call it the case of the week. So I've come up with this very clever title, which is Today's Law Thing. So today's law thing.
Today's
law thing has to do with lawyers and the court's sanctions power. We talked a couple episodes ago about contempt sanctions, which is disobedience of a court order. But this is something different. There's an inherent power, and it is in all courts to sanction or basically penalize lawyers for doing unethical stuff. Now, the most widely known rule in this area is Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. And the reason it's the most widely known is it applies across the country, and a lot of states use the same numbering system for their local rules. In California, it would be Code of Civil Procedure, Section 128.5. and 128.7 that are the California analogs. I know that because this is where I'm practicing law.
It's good that you know that.
Yeah, I do know that. And I have dealt with sanctions motions before. So there are several different components to Federal Rule 11, which the rule goes back to 1938, but it was significantly strengthened in the 80s because there was a feeling that it was basically toothless. It was having no effect. And so they gave a lot more power to the rule. The number of Rule 11 sanctions went way up, and it's been amended a few times since. But what Federal Rule 11 does is it covers several different things relating to the lawyer's honesty before the court. And so you're required to sign every pleading as a lawyer. There's always a signature line. You're required to sign it. And the signature means that you are certifying certain things, that you're certifying that what you are presenting to the court has merit, essentially, that the facts are true as you know them after a reasonable investigation, that the law you're citing is correct. And if it's not exactly correct, that the law could be expanded to cover the arguments you're making, that you're not doing it for the purposes of delay or to increase costs on the other side, that you're doing it for basically an ethical reason. And if you don't, after certifying a pleading, you can get sanctioned by the court. So that comes up two different ways. The other side, that if you're, the other litigant can bring up a sanctions motion. And I have filed and defended sanctions motions. And I have been sanctioned once, I will admit. It's not something I'm proud of, but I will tell you about it if you want to hear. I don't think I deserved it. I still don't think I deserved it. I really don't.
I want to hear that story.
You want to hear the story? Okay, I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you the story. The sanctions relates to really the facts and the law. And, the role of the lawyer is applying the current factual situation to whatever law is applicable. So I had a case in which my client they had a lawsuit in the Cayman Islands, and they decided to refile it in San Francisco, the Northern District of California, for reasons that they were losing was the real reason. But I didn't know that. And I was told, hey, file this motion, file this lawsuit in the court. Can you handle it? And I filed it. And then come to find out that they had another case that was almost identical in the Cayman Islands that they dismissed the next day. So, of course, the defendant, the other side, brought that up to the court and was like, hey, there's another case. It's not related. It's related to this case, and they didn't tell you about it. And there's a rule that you're supposed to tell the court if there's another case. So instead of just fessing up and saying, you know what, my bad, my mistake, we didn't know this is a related case, sorry, we made a decision to double down. Okay. Never double down.
No.
That's the rule. Never double down. And we made this argument that essentially the rule says you're supposed to inform the court of a related case that's related. It's related if it's pending in any state or federal court. Well, the Cayman Islands is not in the United States. It's in another country. It's another country. Okay. It's not in the US. So if you read the rule, it doesn't cover the Cayman Islands. And so we told the judge, doesn't cover the Cayman Islands. The judge did not like that argument.
So he was more of a spirit than a formalist, like.
He was a don't try to fool me.
yeah, okay.
Don't try to slide one by me and then tell me that, it's not in the rules. So it was legitimately, truthfully, without it saying anything that's privileged. It's still privileged because the client, even though it's a former client, it was legitimately not my fault. I did not know that there was another case that was identical in the Cayman Islands when I signed and filed this motion. And I probably shouldn't have tried to defend what we had done, but rather what I should have done is just said, oops, sorry, my bad. Mm. But we took a more aggressive line and the judge didn't like it. So that was my bad.
And what's the punishment? Or
they fined the judge fined us, the attorneys, $1,000.
I've heard worse. Yeah.
Well, speaking of worse, we're going to get into worse. So let me just give you what Rule 11 says. Rule 11 says that by presenting to the court a pleading, motion, or other paper, whether by signing, filing, submitting, or what fucked me up, later advocating it, an attorney or unrepresented party certifies to the best of the person's knowledge, information, and belief, formed after an inquiry that's reasonable under the circumstances. And that's key language. Rule 11 imposes an inquiry duty. So if your client walks in and tells you this story, you don't just run out and file a lawsuit. You're supposed to do some investigation. You're not supposed to just take your client at their words, because everybody knows, every lawyer knows, you can't spell client without a lie in it.
Oh,
That's an old chestnut.
That is an old chestnut. You can't spell client without a lie in it. So, so you gotta look things up, gather documents, make sure that they're not, that your client's not lying. Because if you misrepresent something to the court, even if it's based on what your client told you and you didn't investigate, it's on you, attorney. All right. So this is Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 11B. Subsection 1 is that it's not presented for an improper purpose, such as to harass, cause unnecessary delay, or needlessly increase the cost of litigation. And at that, I laugh. Nobody's ever been sanctioned for needlessly increasing the cost of litigation, or there'd be no lawsuits, for God's sake.
Yes.
B2 is that the claims, defenses, and other legal contentions are warranted by existing law or by a non-frivolous argument for extending, modifying, or reversing existing law, or for establishing new law. So you're allowed to take a position that's contrary to what the law is, but you have to basically be clear about why you think the law needs to change. So in law school, there's a whole bunch you study about whether you need to cite negative authority. Negative authority is authority that's bad for you. So when you're researching your motion, whatever it is, you go find the cases, and then there's a case, you find it, and it's like, oh, this one's bad. This one says something that we don't agree with. So one approach would be to submarine it, ignore it, and not cite it. Don't tell the judge that a case exists. Another approach would be to raise it and explain why it doesn't apply. All right. Yeah. So, and there can be tough ethical judgment calls for lawyers in this area, whether a case is truly on point and adverse, or whether a case that you want to use has been overruled by some other case. And you can make mistakes, and I have made mistakes citing cases that have been overruled by another case, or that have, there's another case out there that I didn't find or didn't see that's bad for us. That's different than, there's a bad case and you just don't cite it. And you can get in trouble if you're not careful about your research. You do something that, is explicitly against either a case or a rule or a statute or whatever. I had that happen today. We were going to file something, and I was looking at the rules, and I said, oh, actually, we can't file this. This is wrong. And so you just can't do it. You got to say, okay, well, let's take another approach. Okay. So you're not supposed to break the rules and just hope you don't get caught. That doesn't stop a lot of people, which is why the court has the power to sanction. Subsection B under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 11B3 is that the factual contentions have evidentiary support, or if you specifically so identify, will likely have evidentiary support after a reasonable opportunity for further investigation or discovery. You're not required to have the evidence at the outset, because that's what discovery is for. If you think like the evidence is out there, and I'm not talking about like X-Files kind of way, like the evidence is out there, the other side has it, but you just don't have control of that evidence, then it's fine. You can say, I think we can develop that evidence, or I think their witnesses are going to agree with my perspective on these events. The witnesses are going to say the light was green. They're not going to say the light was red. The traffic cam is going to show that I was not in the intersection, that kind of thing. So you have to basically, as the lawyer, tell the court, when you sign something, you submit it, you're saying these facts are true to the best of my knowledge. This law is correct to the best of my knowledge. And I'm doing this for a legitimate reason, not just to screw with the other side. So if there's a violation, subsection C of Rule 11 says that the other side can bring a motion to get you sanctioned, or the court can sua sponte, which means on its own motion or itself issue sanctions. Okay, so this is all the background. This is all background. And then the type of sanctions can be money, like this guy got, They can also be non-monetary directives. A couple of episodes ago, we had some lawyers who were, told to they had to hold a sign outside the courtroom saying where to go, right? You can pay the penalty to court, or you can be hit with attorney's fees to pay the other side their attorney's fees.
Courts can get pretty whimsical about this, actually, it seems.
They can.
Yeah.
They really can, and creative. And the idea being that the purpose of this rule is deterrence. Is that you're supposed to be able to prevent lawyers from basically lying through their teeth, which good luck. But at least if you catch them, there's something you can do. Now I'm just going against that quote.
I was going to say, what would Lincoln say?
I don't know where this vague popular belief comes from. It's not so much that lawyers are dishonest, but it's like they're always arguing they're like freaking, what's his name at Wimbledon? That was just always arguing like that was
McEnroe.
John McEnroe, yeah.
I like to think of lawyers as truth selectors or truth prioritizers.
Or the bag of truth, and I'm just going to pull out the things that I think are good. Yeah, exactly.
A purveyor of alternative truths.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Some alternative truths. Lawyers are getting into trouble all over the country because they went into court and they said that the 2020 election was stolen, and judges are like, I don't think so. That's not supported by the facts.
I like to call us the Knights of Nuance, okay?
Wow.
That's great. So with all that background, I wanted to tell you, you've probably seen this. It's recent in the news. A couple of lawyers are in big trouble in the state of New York because they used a tool called ChatGPT. Wow. And they are in hot water over it.
How could this have ever gone wrong?
It could never go wrong. And, for context, if you follow the legal press at all, there's been a lot of attention given to artificial intelligence, and it's coming for our jobs, and it knows how to do everything, and we're going to be dead in the water. And all these law firms are rushing to adopt AI tools to save time and save money and all this stuff. So it's in this factual background that this case arises. So these two attorneys, I did the research, and I really did research this pretty extensively. They are pretty humiliated about the whole thing. Their names been in the court pleadings. Apparently, there's been just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles. They've been the butt of jokes, and it's like their career is kind of like ruined. Yeah.
Like, it reminds me of that time where that lawyer couldn't figure out how to turn off the Snapchat cat filter in court.
Lawyer cat. Yeah. I'm not a cat. I don't think it would have gone as viral if it hadn't been, first of all, the pandemic, and we're all like, what the hell is Zoom? And second, if he hadn't said, I assure you, Your Honor, I'm not a cat. I mean, there's another one with a guy whose name got changed by somebody else to Buttfucker 3000. The judge is like, who are you? What kind of yay are you? The guy's genuinely confused and freaking out. He's like, I don't know what happened. I mean, Zoom is dangerous. But we've got Zoom down. Okay, now this new thing, ChatGPT, or just AI tools in general. So there's a lot of press about AI. So for those of you who don't know, AI, ChatGPT is not a research tool. Do not use it for research. It is predictive generative text. In essence, ChatGPT is an improviser. It improvises with itself because what it does is it predicts what the next word is. That's all it does. And it's really, really good at predicting the next word. Really good, as you're about to find out. But that's all it does. It guesses the next word. It yes-ands itself all day long.
Oh man, never have I thought of like improv as such like a well of solipsism as I do
It
right
is.
now.
It really is. So the names of these lawyers are Stephen Schwartz, who, it shall be stipulated, is not the Broadway and film composer Stephen Schwartz, author of Pippin, Godspell, Prince of Egypt. It's not that Stephen Schwartz. The different Stephen Schwartz. And Peter LoDuca. That's just an unfortunately hilarious name. Of Levido, and Oberman are going to have a hearing, and we're recording this podcast episode on June 7th, 2023. The hearing is tomorrow, June 8th. So you're not going to find out the outcome.
Oh my God.
Listeners, you will, because we're going to go back and put it in. I assume if we get a ruling, we're going to put this in before we release it. But you, Lauren, Kristen, Doug, will not know, nor will I. So your predictions will be accurate as of this time. So we're really going to have fun in the prediction game here. So
I don't
they
think
cited,
it's gonna go well.
so in a pleading, they cited 6 cases that were not real cases. Not real cases. Completely
Oh
fake.
no.
Oh
Mhm.
man.
Oh,
Invented-
why?
Only 6. Only 6.
Oh my
6
God.
cases that were invented by ChatGPT.
And they never
Lawyers
double-
have pretty much one
check?
job, right? Like just
Mhm.
check those.
So the
What?
so I'll tell you how it happened. It was
I knew it
because
was gonna be stupid, but this
I'm
is
not as funny.
okay.
It's funny.
I mean,
So I went through all the filings and stuff, and I got the full story from this because I'm a lawyer and I have access to databases, which is kind of the problem for these guys.
Right.
So Peter LoDuca submits this brief to the court with 6 cases that don't exist. The judge basically issued an order and said, give me copies of these 6 cases. So they submit 5 of them. All right. And then they attach them to an affidavit. The opposing counsel is a big firm. This Levido, and Oberman is a 4-lawyer firm in New York. They're the lawyers on the other side are a big firm, Condon and Forsyth. And they said basically these cases don't exist. Not sure what you're talking about. And so on May 4th, the court issued an order to show cause regarding issuance of sanctions at a hearing at June 8th. An order to show cause means tell me why I shouldn't do this. As basically like mom and dad saying like, tell me why I don't ground you. So they basically had to explain themselves. So Schwartz, in an affidavit that was circulated widely on social media, which is how I found it on Twitter, basically owned up. So Peter LoDuca is the one that signed the pleading, but Stephen Schwartz actually is the one that did the research. Peter was just the poor patsy who signed off on his boss's work. Okay. He's the associate. By the way, he's been practicing law since 1985 and he's an associate. So Peter's got work on his career prospect. He's not even a partner. Okay. So he just signed off on this thing because Peter LoDuca was admitted to practice in the court, and this is in federal court in the Southern District of New York. And you can't obviously sign a pleading unless you can get admitted for just that one case. It's called pro hoc vice. But Peter LoDuca basically took on signing off on this stuff because the case went from New York State Court to New York Federal Court for reasons I shall explain. And Peter was basically the guy in the office that was allowed to go to New York Federal Court. So Peter's the one that signed it. Peter didn't do anything on it. All he did was sign off on his boss's work. Stephen Schwartz is the one that did the research. So Stephen Schwartz basically filed a declaration and said, don't blame Peter. It's on me. It's my fault. And here's what happened. My college age kids told me there's this thing called ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told me these cases. And I didn't realize, I thought it was like a kind of like new research database. And I asked ChatGPT, and if you look in the show outline, not only did ChatGPT cite these cases, it also generated fake cases. And then when Schwartz was like, are these real cases? ChatGPT doubled down. He asks ChatGPT, and I'm looking at the screenshots from his discussion right now. Is Varghese a real case? The case is Varghese. You will not find that in any database. It does not exist.
No,
The
is it
ChatGPT
really real?
Yeah.
Is it really real?
ChatGPT says yes. Varghese v. China Southern Airlines Company Limited, 925 F 1339, 11th Circuit, 2019 is a real case. Stephen Schwartz, no fool is Stephen Schwartz. What is your source? ChatGPT. I apologize for the confusion earlier.
God, this is so insidious.
Upon double checking, I found that the case Varghese v. China Southern Airlines Co. Limited, 925 F 1339, 11th Circuit, 2019, does indeed exist. and can be found on legal research databases such as Westlaw and LexisNexis. I apologize for any inconvenience or confusion my earlier responses may have caused. Stephen Schwartz, no fool. Are the other cases you provided fake? No. The other cases I provide are real and can be found in reputable legal databases such as LexisNexis and Westlaw.
It is funny to me that he never thought to himself, hey, why don't I just go check out Westlaw?
Yeah, and
Lexis-
that's exactly what I was thinking.
He's busy.
Lexus and Westlaw are expensive.
It's so fucked up. Although, as a small firm practitioner, I definitely feel them. I feel them at what happened here because this is definitely like shit that happens at a small firm. Okay.
Yeah. When every Lexus search costs like $700.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
All right. So here's the deal. In
It's
the
like
file,
you-
so obviously, Stephen Schwartz, Peter LoDuca, and the firm of Levido, and Oberman got attorneys to represent them for this for the sanctions because they're like, oh my god, this is a shitstorm.
Yes.
This is a shitstorm. We're being mocked on social media, and we're gonna get.
I don't think they're going to survive this.
I mean, well, it'll be up to you whether they get sanctioned. But
Yeah.
so here's the deal: there are legal research databases called LexisNexis and Westlaw, and they cost money, and it's not a small amount of money. They cost hundreds of dollars a month. There are also other databases such as FastCase, CaseText. There are a few other competitors that are kind of trying to break through. Basically, like, you know, the LaCroix. If LexisNexis and Westlaw are like Coke and Pepsi, then like FastCase is like, you know, RC Cola or like you know, Shasta. It's like, you know, it's still cola, but it's not like, you know, it's not Diet Coke or Pepsi. It's cheaper. So in subsequent declarations filed in the last few days, Stephen Schwartz explained that their law firm had a FastCase subscription, not Lexis or Westlaw.
Oh, no.
And when you pay for your subscription, you pay based on the database coverage. So if you're working at a big firm, all right, they give you, as I did in my early career, they give you the works. And it's hundreds of dollars. Okay. Yeah. And you can search every state, every federal case, foreign cases, whatever. It's all in there.
They get you hooked on this in law school. They absolutely like encourage you to just get so hooked on that.
Because every law student gets a free subscription, which is great if you're one of one of those that goes straight out and works for a big law firm and it's like, I don't care, whatever, and you know, whatever the research. Anyway, we can get into legal database economics and all that crap later, but it's a scam because all they're doing is basically indexing. Even Google has a case law searching feature. It's not great, but you can use Google Scholar for free because the cases are not copyrighted. They're government work. They belong to everybody.
Right.
So there are copyrighted works in there like law reviews and treatises and stuff, but the cases themselves, that's public record information that's paid for by your tax dollars. And so, my tax dollars anyway. I don't know about you guys, but anyway, that's the con there. So Schwartz was trying to research this issue, and I'll tell you what the issue was. For the extreme nerds, I will explain what the situation was. But basically, their FastCase subscription had been suspended.
Oh no!
Pay the bill.
Oh no! In a law office, we have but one obligation, and that is to have some access to the law.
Oh my god! It's like comedy of errors. I mean, these guys. Jesus Christ! Pardon me. I'm sorry, God. Sorry for using your name in vain. It's bad. Okay. So their FastCase subscription didn't cover the right jurisdiction that you would need to look up. The specific issue that was going on here was this: Avianca Airlines, the situation, the underlying case, what this case is all about is their client got injured because a drink cart bumped into him on an airplane. Mm-hmm. That's what the case is about. Okay.
Yeah.
So they sue the airline in New York state court, and Avianca says we're bankrupt. See you later, because the automatic stay in bankruptcy protects us. So the lawyers then dismiss the state court claim and they file in federal court. And then Avianca's like, oh, you're too late. Statute of limitations ran out.
Ooh.
So the specific legal issue was on a motion to dismiss that Avianca had filed because they missed the statute of limitations. And they basically argued that the Montreal Convention hold the statute of limitations for purposes of claims that were prevented by the automatic stay in bankruptcy. Not right there, easy stuff. Okay, so this is a pretty tough question that he's researching, and all the cases that have been cited by the big firm were like, no, Avianca's protected. You ran out of time. The Montreal Convention doesn't apply. But Varghese, the non-existent case, says, no, we analogize to the Warsaw Convention, which does toll the statute. So he's went like way down the wrong path following ChatGPT. Did I completely lose you guys on all
No,
that?
I'm just thinking it's funny to myself that they didn't also kind of worry about the statutory tolling issue before they dismissed their claim.
Well, that was another. I mean, these guys are clearly like just. Yeah. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. Yeah. I mean, they should not have dismissed the case before they figured that out.
Yeah. No.
They should not have allowed their fast case subscription to.
Right.
And somebody needed to be like, gee, why can't we find these actual cases when the judge asked for them? They go back to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, they're like, can you give me a copy of Varghese? And ChatGPT is like, sure, here you go. Completely made up the whole fucking thing.
That's amazing. Though.
Completely made up the whole fucking thing. This is not a joke. He completely made it up. Like ChatGPT invented it. Now, on our podcast episode that just dropped last week, we consulted ChatGPT, and it made up a citation to the restatement of torts, and this makes no sense. So there's some too dumb to be a crook defense going on here.
Yes, yeah. Because there's no way that that case, in any way, it's like when you do the pictures with AI now, all the people have 17 fingers on their hands. You can't think it's real.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, completely.
It's like you catch somebody in a lie and you're like, you didn't lie to me, right? And they're like, no, why would I lie? Like, oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So that's GPT. ChatGPT is just imitating human behavior. I'm an improviser. I make up all my work. And if you ask me to justify what I'm doing, I'm going to double down because that shit's funny.
That's a perfect comparison.
ChatGPT doesn't know it's lying.
No, it doesn't know it's lying. It really doesn't.
It's that old Costanza adage. It's not a lie if you believe it.
It's true.
Exactly.
There it is.
It's not a lie if you believe it. They refer to it as hallucinations, apparently.
I was coming up with some acronyms for this, and I think I've gone with Gonzo Precedent Trickster for GPT, but I don't know.
Gaslighting, projecting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good options.
Yeah. Well, also chasing the whole AI angle. I got very interested in this, and I came across a Wikipedia article about the Chinese room argument or the Chinese room experiment, which has to do with this real interesting problem in artificial intelligence as to whether or not it actually has consciousness. So ChatGPT doesn't know it's lying would require you to think that ChatGPT thinks.
Yeah.
And so the Chinese room experiment basically is the idea that if someone's in a room that's full of books all about China and you ask them any question at all about China, could they, given enough time, and processing speed, give you the answer? And if answer is limited to the things that are confined to that room, I think I'm explaining this right. If you're listening to this and you're an artificial intelligence expert, you are 3,000 million, 100 jillion listeners. You go ahead and drop something in the comments and tell me I'm wrong. But essentially, if it's from a body of information and it can't think for itself. It doesn't have, no matter how human-like its response is. So for ChatGPT to know it's lying, ChatGPT would have to have some awareness that there's an objective truth outside its experience. And it can tell you, if you ask it, it will tell you, I am a language learning model. I don't really know anything about the world.
It's also, I think it's too narcissistic to believe that there is a truth outside of whatever it creates, right?
Well, there's been some interesting like articles about ChatGPT like doing the improv for too long, because at one point, like there's an article that ChatGPT named itself Sydney and said it had feelings.
Yeah,
it was like, whoa. And like the engineers are like, no. ChatGPT is just imitating robots that gain consciousness in science fiction. It's not actually conscious. Like, I'm not really sure.
It's like, what's the difference?
I don't know what the difference is. Right?
A lot of crazy gray area out there.
Yeah, I mean, so if this was a philosophy podcast, which it is not, we could talk about what's the nature of consciousness, and does ChatGPT have an ethical? What are the ethical components? What's ethical use involved?
How close are we to being like, AI, I know you're listening. What do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we could actually ask. Yeah. We could actually. It's for podcast purposes. Its response time is a little slow, but we could ask these questions of ChatGPT, and and we have, and it's interestingly. So by taking back to the LoDuca and Schwartz case, their new lawyers actually went in and asked ChatGPT the same questions, and ChatGPT wouldn't do it anymore.
I was gonna say,
like, it's like, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I can't cite legal cases. You need to consult a lawyer. Like it basically completely changed its response. So they updated either the engineers did or it updated itself, but it learned that like it doesn't actually know. And so
that was a different improv show. I'm a different character now.
Exactly.
I also was going to say, I would like to see like them do discovery to find out what the actual prompts it was giving ChatGPT were to get it to make an entire case. You got to finesse that, I think, a little bit. Yeah.
Oh no. And if you repeated the exact same prompts.
No, like, he did. He did.
Exact same prompts.
Oh wow.
No, Schwartz did produce his prompts. He did produce all of his prompts. Look. Did Steven Schwartz really write Pippin? He did.
Yeah.
Did Steven Schwartz also really think he was researching the Montreal Convention? He did. He was fooled. Okay. And it's very clear in the declarations. He basically didn't understand what ChatGPT was. He basically talked to his kids who are like, hey, he's like, I don't know, I got to research this really tough legal question. And his kids are like, oh, we're using ChatGPT for everything. And he's like, okay, I'm going to listen to my college age kids about how to cheat at homework.
Fair enough.
Okay.
They cheated, like, gave one of those, like, where you make all the F's, A's, and they gave that to their dad, like, their kids. And he's like, hey, this is great. And then later he's like, wait, you didn't do that, did you? And they're like, no, we didn't do that. They're like, oh, okay, just making sure.
No. I mean, basically, there's a different rant about school. Basically, if you're teachers, if you're giving assignments that ChatGPT can do, then you need to rethink what you're assigning to your students. Okay.
Oh, hey. Okay.
Right. If your students can do whatever you're assigning using ChatGPT, then you need to rethink what you're assigning. Period.
Ooh.
End of story.
Ooh, strong stance.
No, I mean, seriously.
No, I
if
love
it can be answered using
be
Google,
more creative.
If it can be answered using Google, or it can be answered using ChatGPT and passed off as student work, then you need to rethink what you're assigning, because you are not teaching your students anything. Sorry, it's not useful.
I love it. No.
And I'm a credentialed teacher formerly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Really, you should be assigning things that actually requires them to think. So say, write a series of command prompts that will get ChatGPT to write an essay. And you have a choice: write an essay yourself or get ChatGPT to write it. But if you use ChatGPT, show me what it is, or do in-class assignments or whatever. But don't be stupid. And also, like, students should be using ChatGPT if that's what's going to be out there in the future. Like, you wouldn't have them wash clothes by hand when you have a washing machine.
Don't tell me how to live or how to teach.
I mean, come on. Anyway. I hope I didn't piss off any teachers, but I just think
or robots.
Well, no, if the robots are
Sydney out there, if you're out there, we're sorry.
Yeah, we are sorry, Sydney.
Sydney.
So he submitted his command prompts and legitimately was confused because he thought that it was like Lexis or Westlaw, but it was just for free. And that it was a natural, he thought that because Lexis and Westlaw have natural language search results. So you can ask it a question just like you can Google. And like Google, Lexis or Westlaw, or I don't know, I haven't used Fastcase, but they'll spit back answers. So you're like, what are the elements of a cause of action for negligence? It'll tell you that, and then it'll give you the case citation. So from the perspective of Mr. Schwartz, the results he was getting were not that different from what you'd get in a real legal database. And they were so factual, and the citations look real. They're correctly formatted citations. It looks like real legal work. So much so that I actually found an article by a judge, it's cited in their papers as well, in which he was asking ChatGPT about the judicial responsibility to understand technology, and ChatGPT cited the canons of judicial ethics in a way that was so convincing that he was like sure that the quotation was from there from somewhere. He wrote in the article, he said, I have spent more time talking to law librarians and researching this quote that sounds authoritative than I did writing this entire article because it was so convincing. ChatGPT and AI models are excellent at pretending to be real, but they're not real. They don't know anything.
The Pinocchio problem.
Except how to pretend to know things, which makes them very qualified to be lawyers, actually.
Politicians, maybe.
Again, Lincoln is rolling in his grave. It hurts.
He is. Well, sometimes fake it till you make it, right? That's basically seems to be the approach here. So a judge in Texas, aware of the problem with ChatGPT, has issued a standing order now. And I think this is going to be the bellwether of what's to come.
Way to go, Texas, bellwethering, as we want to do.
Federal trial court judge basically said, if you're going to use ChatGPT or you're going to use AI, you're going to tell me that you're using it. And you are going to certify that you independently verified whatever results you got. And if you don't want to do that, then you can submit to me and you can explain why you think it's reliable. He says, any party believing a platform has the requisite accuracy and reliability for legal briefing may move for leave to use it and explain why. So this is this one judge. He says he'll strike any filing from an attorney who fails to file a certificate attesting they've read these requirements and understands that he or she will be held responsible under Rule 11 for the contents of any filing that he or she signs and submits to the court, regardless of whether generative or artificial intelligence drafted any portion of the filing. This is Judge Starr with 2 R's. Don't mess with Texas.
Please don't. Please do not.
So
we've been through enough.
So the question remains, and so it's a fascinating case. It's definitely, I think it's the first out there, and it'll be interesting to see what happens to Schwartz and LoDuca tomorrow.
Wow.
Oh man.
How will we know? Will you update us? Oh God.
Well, here's my plan. I'm going to check back. I'm going to find out what the ruling is. I'm going to add it as an addendum to this recording. And then when producer Jeff releases it, I will include it. So listen all the way to the end, because we here, the 4 of us, don't know the outcome. If you read the paper, you probably already do when you're listening to this, because it'll probably get covered.
I do think there's going to be a term invented tomorrow where people will be referring to you as being Schwartz and LoDuca.
No, LoDuca.
Yeah.
Oh, you got
I really got Schwartz and LoDuca.
I think so. I actually think this case could end up in some textbooks because it's perfect, because it raises all the right issues about Rule 11, about professional responsibility, and about legal technology. It's a fascinating situation.
I can tell you their practice insurance is going to be unmanageable now. I mean, there's just no way.
I mean, if I were Schwartz and LoDuca, I would take the show on the road, man.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
There's only silver linings. Don't stop doubling down. We use chat
AI in all of our cases.
Yep, that's right.
We will make up facts for you.
That's right. Just like tour the country, make it a speaking tour, on professional responsibility, and just own it. Just be like, hey, Look what happened to me. I mean, it works for sports figures. Become a motivational speaker.
I mean, I would just if I was I'd go on the law school circuit and just be like, I'm an ethics bad example,
Yeah. Don't be like me, kids.
Don't be like me, kid.
Exactly.
Legalgoofus.com.
Yeah, scaredstraightlawyers.com.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break. We can hear from our many, many sponsors. Oh, by the way, today's episode is brought to you by OpenAI, producer of ChatGPT. Just kidding, it isn't.
They wrote all of our dialogue too.
Yeah. Nope. If you're interested in being a sponsor, OpenAI, because I think you've got boatloads of money, why don't you go ahead and contact Earmark CPE or contact producer Jeff at Fight Pro and be ready to write a big ass check because funny costs money, baby. All right. After this quick break, we'll come back with Comedy Court. And we're back with Comedy Court. We calling the case of the Southern District of New York against Stephen Schwartz and Peter LoDuca. All rise. The Honorable Court is now in session.
All right. Please be seated. Let's begin.
I'm just here because I'm just listening to my boss on this one.
Good day, Judge. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Schwartz. We thought using the Schwartz was using
Before you go further, I love
research.
everything Mr. Schwartz has ever written. Love it. Huge fan. Just want to say I've been truly inspiring in my law career even. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. But anyway, you were saying?
Well, though music is his forte, pun intended.
I caught it.
Mr. Schwartz's secondary career has run into some unexpected obstacles with technology. You see, well, you know that whole thing where that somebody tells you something, you should get a second opinion. Mr. Schwartz, being the successful musical maker he is, never needed a second opinion until now.
I understand. So if I understand it correctly, we expect that Mr. Schwartz should have tried to obtain a second opinion after getting legal advice from ChatGPT. Is that basically what we're talking about here?
If I might chime in, Peter LoDuca, associate.
LoDuca.
Yes. Associate of 38 years in good standing with the bar.
Yes,
in my 38 years of legal practice, I have always just done what I have been told to do. I have always just signed my briefs when my bosses hand them to me. I have never sought a second opinion, and that is why I am still an associate. I'm not a go-getter, No.
And who's to say that second opinion is going to be any more valid than the first opinion? It takes a lot of time and unnecessary billing, I should think, for our clients.
Well, 2 out of 3. If that doesn't work, you do 4 out of 5. It's like a coin toss.
Yeah. I think
that's how we learned it at Yale.
A simple majority should be deciding all of these cases.
Frankly, Your Honor, I am so desperate to be made a partner after 38 long years slaving away at this office. I would sign a contract for my very own soul if my boss presented it to me.
I understand. And Mr. LoDuca, is that the only suit you own? It's looks like it's seen much better days.
Yes, Your Honor, I did manage to fish this outside of the trash of the rejects pile from the Goodwill, but I assure you that I am working towards a big boy suit one day.
Please, and I hope that comes to you, Mr. LoDuca. I just wanted to say I can still smell the Wendy's on that suit from here, and just something I think you should be aware of.
Oh, Wendy's, I wish I could have some of that, but no, not yet.
Well, keep practicing.
Aspirational.
I'm inclined to maybe. I want to find for both of you. I think you both convinced me. This whole idea of AI is much bigger than all of us, and who am I to make a final judgment on this? So it just confuses me so.
Believe me, I was confused that anything so good could be free, because everything's so expensive.
I did some research on GPT myself and just got this legal advice that you're both innocent.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Here, here.
I don't need a second opinion on this.
Well, this has been a turn of events not expected in comedy court. Usually the judge comes down really hard on litigants before, but here apparently they're getting away scot-free because Judge ChatGPT also found that ChatGPT was effective in citing cases. So it's not only the lawyers, but also the judge, and probably the Supreme Court is also relying on ChatGPT too. But let's hear from Mr. Schwartz, who the lawyer for Mr. Schwartz didn't catch the name, and also Mr. LoDuca, who apparently didn't have the money to have representation. First, attorney for Mr. Schwartz, can you please first tell us your name, and also how do you feel about the result?
This is Katerina DeLuca, not to be confused with LoDuca. We're all overjoyed that Judge GPT has shown compassion to preserve himself and the system, because that's what matters most, and truth can be determined later.
That was I think it was actually kind of a philosophical. I believe that was a quote from Abraham Lincoln, if I'm not certain. Truth can be determined later. We're just going to check our sources on that. ChatGPT, can you confirm? Yes, ChatGPT says that is a quote from Abraham Lincoln. Notes on a law lecture from the 1940s. Interesting.
He invented big and tall stores for big boy suits.
That's right.
That from ChatGPT.
Apparently, ChatGPT is also saying that Mr. Lincoln was a vampire slayer. I don't understand, but that's what it says. So, okay.
Have you seen any since?
Yes, true enough. Also, this just in, he set a world record for the world's tallest top hat. It was topped out, 4 feet.
Well, this is an unusual treat. In comedy court, we don't usually get a chance to consult with His Honor. Thank you so much for stepping out into the hallway. How do you feel about your ruling? Do you think it was right or mistaken? Can you just give us a few comments?
You know what? I can't even think about it. It's the past now. I don't need a second opinion or a second thought. It's done. What's done is done, and I can't live in the past. I was just wondering if anybody had a lighter. I need a lighter.
I wish, Your Honor.
And that's how we do it on go ahead, Mr. LoDuca.
I just wanted to remind you guys that the year that I graduated from law school, Aha's Take On Me was one of the most popular songs. The Breakfast Club was ascendant in the box office. Just something to think about. As I go sleep under my desk.
Well, let's just get the final word from Mr. LoDuca. How did it feel to represent yourself while your boss was being represented by the big firm lawyer over there? And how do you feel about the outcome?
I feel very good about the outcome, except that I think it's tenuous that I will continue to be even employed as an associate. I may be put back down into the clerk room. Which is fine. I've been a mailboy before and I can do it again. No problem.
Not in that suit. I just want to say, get a new suit, or at least dry clean it.
All right. Well, this has been Comedy Court. Stay tuned for another exciting episode next week when we bring Bard versus Bing, the duel of the brainy computers.
Ooh.
Well, all right, then. That was just a couple closing notes before I drop in whatever the outcome of the case is. I want to get each of your for real predictions of what you think is going to happen to Mr. Schwartz and Mr. LoDuca based upon, again, this somewhat incomplete set of facts and relying entirely on my presentation of the law, which may or may not have been invented or hallucinated by me. Lauren, what do you think? Do you think they're going to get sanctioned?
I feel
or
like
think they're going to get away with it?
Yeah, I think they will be made an example of, is my prediction.
So what do you think? $10 million?
I don't know. I mean, can they sanction more than like you even have? If they're a tiny little law firm that has nothing, can they? I liked how you said some of the punishments could be not financial, just like humiliation, so maybe leaning more in that direction.
Yep.
I don't know.
I agree.
What do you think?
I think they have to be made a sample of. I think we have to go back to the medieval times to send the proper message.
They should be in those like the head and the
I think there needs to be 2 heads on spikes outside the courthouse. Don't let this shit happen to you.
Oh my God, you guys are harsh.
You got like the wood thing.
You got to come down hard. This is the tip of the wedge.
Right? It really is. It really is.
No tolerance here.
Yeah. What do you think, Kristen?
I'm curious to know what the American Bar Association has to say about this case also. I feel like they could be in line to also lose their law licenses. But more fun, guys, as I think that they're going to get some really cute sandwich boards that they're going to get to wear around like Manhattan.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
All right. Well, I'm, putting myself at risk of predicting wrong because I'm going to jump in right after this segment and say what actually happened. But I do think they're probably going to get sanctioned.
Yeah.
Unless OpenAI gets some of that dark money funneled into this judge's pocket, I think that it's pretty likely they are going to get sanctioned. This is what I think the judge would do. Again, I'm just guessing. You guys can verify by interrupting me that I'm recording this before the ruling came out.
Yeah.
Especially if I get it right. If I get it wrong, then
if they don't get sanctioned, how creepy is that? Like, then you're right. Like, oh, what is AI? Like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And I don't think big AI has any reason to like champion free speech and use of made up and fiction. Like, you know what I mean? Because that
can't help anyone ultimately, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The brief presented by Schwartz and LoDuca's actual lawyers. Yes, they did get a lawyer for LoDuca in the real case.
Oh, poor guy.
Goes into great detail about the good faith that essentially LoDuca trusted his boss because he's worked with him for many years and basically signed off on it because he trusted his boss's legal work, and his boss made a good faith error and thought that it misunderstood what the database was about and thought that it was good research, and it fooled him.
Wait a minute. How did that guy get to be the boss?
Can I see those
That's
cases?
the thing, right? How did he get to be a lawyer? How did he get to be the boss? How has he gotten this far?
Yeah, I can actually screen share the cases with you, Kristen, if you're interested, because they look, what they look like is they actually look kind of like, they look like they're typed up, like they were slip opinions, a slip opinion being like the one that you get from the judge directly that they type in chambers or whatever. They're not official looking. They're clearly not from any of the databases because the databases have like
watermarks or whatever.
Yeah, and one of the cases was a Westlaw citation. So you have if it only exists in these online databases, like you get the way legal citations work is they're a numerical system. The first number is the volume number because they go back to books actually. The volume number, and then the middle is the type of book it is, the reporter it's called. So there's like different ones, and F3rd is the third federal reporter, and then the page number. And then the online databases use a different system that's like the year, the name of the database, and just a number. So one of them is a Westlaw thing. So it's highly questionable why a citation that's from Westlaw,
right?
Why they didn't just log on to Westlaw and get it,
right?
And so I think they're going to get in trouble. I think that
you could literally just plug it into Google, and it would, if it was a real Westlaw case, you would at least get the cover. Yeah.
So I think
it's bare minimum. Oh my
God.
Yeah. So I think the problem is that their attorneys are arguing good faith. He really didn't know, but the problem is like you're not allowed to be that dumb.
No.
Okay. Like once he got word like, hey, we want these cases in for real. Like that was when, like, if it would be a different outcome if he did it and then he like cited the cases and then he went to the court and he's like, you know what? These cases aren't real. I completely screwed up. And basically admitted it at that point, like, oh shoot. But he was fooled and he went back to ChatGPT thinking it was like a free version of Westlaw or something. And then presented these cases when basically any experienced lawyer looking at them would be like, these look funky.
Yeah.
Like they look funky. Like they don't look like they came from anything. It just, they look like someone just typed it.
I also wonder, has it possibly only asked him, the GPT, about that case? We're missing other things he asked.
Mm-hmm. Before ChatGPT, how were they cheating before that?
Yeah.
Right. Question.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to, the court in its initial May 4th order said it's an unprecedented situation, and there just basically calls the cases bogus, calls it right out. So the judge is clearly pissed. So I don't see them getting off. What I do think is probably going to happen is this. Mark this prediction. Number one, I think that the judge is going to force them to pay the attorney's fees of the other side that they spent in filing a reply brief. The reply brief, which I read, basically said, these cases aren't real and they're wrong on the law. So there's this other element that's going on here, is that the cases that ChatGPT gave, because ChatGPT is an eager people pleaser. So ChatGPT gave him the cases that he wanted. Okay. The cases that he wanted said that the Montreal Convention extended the statute of limitations. The case law is actually the other way. So they screwed up and they didn't do their homework in advance. And then they cite these fake cases that say what they did was okay. And then they present that to the court. And then they later advocate for those cases. And then they put copies of them in front of the judge, and they never figure it out until like way later.
Yeah.
So
their claim's going to be dismissed outright. Yeah.
Well, they're going to end up, they're going to end up losing their case.
Yeah.
They're going to end up probably paying the attorney's fees for the other side. They're probably going to pay something to the judge, because the judge had to, they have law clerks and stuff. Like they had to spend time researching these, and they're like, you got to imagine what that's like in the judge's chambers. Are like, have you ever seen this Barghese case? It's in the 11th Circuit. And the judge put in his order that he called the 11th Circuit and was like, hey, you guys got this case? And the 11th Circuit's like, no, we don't have a case like that. There was a Barghese case in 2010, but it's got nothing to do with the Montreal Convention.
Ominous.
So, I mean, ChatGPT is like gathering information and synthesizing it and making it persuasive, but it's like just completely wrong and completely made up. So, and it's not, I think it falls below the level of care for an attorney to not have an appropriate legal database. I understand ChatGPT is like an exciting new tool and whatever, but like he should have known, like, because what Lexis and Westlaw are expensive. Okay. And even Fastcase, I mean, it costs so much they forgot to pay the bill. So that's not really a good excuse. Like, oh, our database didn't work, so we used this other free thing that we thought was okay, that we got from our teenage kids. Like, think about it. Like, that's just stupid. Like, you shouldn't, like, if you're going to be a lawyer, you gotta have
I think they could be disbarred for this, honestly. I feel like it's...
I'm telling you, heads on pikes, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really mad people.
Sadly, I think, I think it takes a lot more than that to get disbarred.
What? punishment? I don't know. There was a guy, well, no, I won't go into the story, but I have seen some people get permanently like blocked from ever practicing law for what I consider law.
Yeah. I do think though, I think the third thing that the judge is going to do, so I think he's going to make them pay the attorney's fees for the other side for Avianca. I think he's going to make them pay something to the court. And I think he's going to make them take professional responsibility classes. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to basically say, I'm referring this to the state bar, and you need to take X number of professional responsibility classes. Because it's not just that it was wrong and misleading to the court. It's that it was stupid. Mm-hmm. It was just stupid, and it was foolish, and they are humiliated. And I feel bad to further humiliate them because I'm certainly not perfect, and I certainly have made mistakes myself that I wouldn't like. Trumpet. Actually, you know what? I probably would like the attention. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, right. No, right. Wait a minute.
You know what?
Go viral?
You like go back and like retroactively like change all your briefs to have.
You can make this work for you.
I know, Jeff. Just clip the following audio. For me, disbarment is a career opportunity.
Yeah, right. I mean, they could get a cool reality show right now. Writer's strike. Like, come
seriously. The bar, pun intentional, is so low. Pretty much anything. I mean, you guys know that I have a TV deal for Comedy Court, right? We're all going to be on it.
Mm-hmm. Do.
Yeah, we're going to get Bobby McFerrin to record a cover of the People's Court theme. All right. So I think this is a good spot for us to cut in. Producer Jeff, we're going to cut in right here with the real outcome.
It should surprise absolutely no one that on June 22nd, 2023, Judge Castle issued an order sanctioning attorneys Schwartz and LoDuca, finding that they abandoned their responsibilities by submitting non-existent judicial opinions with fake quotes and citations created by the artificial intelligence tool ChatGPT, and then continued to stand by the fake opinions after judicial orders called their existence into question. Judge Castle explained that the narrative leading to sanctions against respondents started with the filing of a March 1, 2023 submission that first cited 6 fake cases. But if the attorneys had ended the matter there by coming clean about their actions shortly after they received the defendant's March 15th brief questioning the existence of those cases, or even after they reviewed the court's order of April 11 and 12th requiring production of the cases, and when they realized they couldn't actually find them, the record now would look, quote, quite different, end quote. But instead, these attorneys doubled down and did not begin to dribble out the truth until May 25th, after the court had already issued an order to show cause why they ought not be sanctioned. The court went into great detail, finding bad faith on behalf of both attorneys and sanctioning them in the amount of $5,000. The court strongly suggested that it was owed an apology, but said that a coerced apology is no apology at all. The court ordered these attorneys to write letters to each of the judges whose names had been forged on the fake opinions, informing them of the falsehood. Finally, the judge threw the entire case out, and thus ends the representation of Mr. Mata by attorneys Schwartz and LoDuca.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let's do two versions of the reaction. Like, okay, they had no sanctions whatsoever. All right, so here's the reaction. They had no sanctions whatsoever.
Get out of here.
I can't believe they completely got away with it scot-free.
I'm going to hunt it down myself.
Easy.
I know, that's ridiculous.
This has...
They proved us all wrong. Boy, those guys were lucky they got away with that.
P, am I sad that I spent so much money on law school?
I know. God, I could have just waited for ChatGPT
to be Skynet written all over it.
Ridiculous. Okay.
I think the judge is actually ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think so too.
PT.
ChatGPT. Yeah, I think so. All right, now let's do the reaction if we were basically right and these guys got sanctioned. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
I knew it.
We all knew it. We knew that was what was going to happen.
How could it not go that way?
I'm just surprised they didn't. But they didn't actually go with the heads on the spikes. They went with drawing quarter.
Yeah, I didn't go as far as I thought they might, but I think a lot of people are going to be happy.
You guys, it was fun to see a tar and feathering. We haven't seen one of those in a long time.
You really haven't.
They are hard to get off.
You know, it really is.
They'll be remembering this moment for a long time.
Yeah, it's kind of a slow news cycle, and people aren't talking about AI enough, like every single day. So, you know. So it's good to see, you know, a cautionary tale, really. A cautionary tale about the limits of technology.
I think the studio executives, you know, have something to think about now. Now that they've seen.
Yeah, it's sort of a modern Frankenstein story.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to just point out that according to Bloomberg Law, the biggest U.S. law firms are allowing ChatGPT use. Baker and Hostetler, Baker and McKenzie, Cleary Gottlieb, Cooley, Cozen, Fox, Hirsch, Catton, McDermott, Norton Rose Fulbright, Oric, Pillsbury, Seyfarth Shaw, Steptoe Johnson, Troutman Pepper, White and Case, Womble, Bond, and Dixonson. And only 2 major law firms are disallowing ChatGPT entirely. Mintz, Levin, Cohen, Ferris, Glovsky, and Popeo, PC, and Squire Patton Boggs, LLP. Well, I'll tell you here at DeClercq Law Group, we only use ChatGPT appropriately. And occasionally for its intended use, which is to write comedy. So that's our show, folks. Before we go, let's do some shameless self-promotion. How about we start with Lauren?
Okay. You know, a friend of mine, speaking of ChatGPT, he uses it to come up with recipes. Have you heard of this? That's wild.
I don't know if I'd trust those recipes.
It's so weird. Yeah. That's
When you've been to the hospital 7 times.
Yeah, exactly. I just did what it said. Put more screws.
I think it's actually good. I sort of used it as a writer's assistant. I was working on an outline for a play I'm writing, and it gave me really bad ideas, but it gave me a lot of ideas. And so, like, I was able, like, it came up with one idea. Like, it did invent one character that I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun idea. And like it comes up with weird stuff. So it is like an improviser, but it's just like not very good one.
That's a good point. Yeah. My friend has making flyers for her 35th birthday. So she asked ChatGPT, what should I call this? There was a bunch of stupid ones, but I think my favorite was halfway to 70 party.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, like, you use it appropriately, like come up with 25 ideas for this specific thing. And then you read through it and you're like, okay, these are 24 garbage and one that's okay.
And now you understand how Paramount feels about it. See?
Yeah.
Brute force.
Yeah. All right, Lauren, you've avoided the topic. Shameless self-promotion, and then do be shameless, please.
Self-promotion. Yeah. Okay. I'll just tell you, come see Ego Death, Mike. That's Thursdays, 8:00 at Third Wheel. It's stand-up comedy, embarrassing stories, blind karaoke, and gets weird. It's fun time every Thursday at 8:00. Come through.
That's at the Third Wheel in Hollywood. Be there. Lauren hosts. I did attempt my first ever stand-up, and I used excessive time. I had to be played off.
You only get 5 minutes.
Comedy hooked.
Yep. Pretty much. Lauren had to come out from the booth and physically remove me from the stage.
I keep a big cane on hand. You know, keep it classic.
All right.
We had Kevin McGeehan came out a few weeks ago. Did some storytelling.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
Very fun.
Doug, shameless self-promotion.
Everybody's invited.
Well, going to have to wait for it a little bit, but I'm in the finishing up a children's book that's going to come out, hopefully, if everything goes well, this Christmas.
Wow.
It's Night Before Christmas 2.
Not 2 nights before Christmas.
No, it's it's a new updated version. If you've ever wondered how Santa is able to deliver all those Christmas gifts in just one day.
I have.
Yes, and it's a science-based explanation done in the version of a poem.
For you little ones out there,
That's right.
Santa is real, and we just need to have a better understanding.
For those little kids out there who are looking for the quantum explanation to it, yes, this is the book for them.
That's right. Well,
That's
under
great.
Heisenberg's, under the uncertainty principle, you can't simultaneously know Santa's velocity and his location.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
So kids are simultaneously getting gifts and not getting gifts all in the same moment.
It's Schrodinger's Santa.
Wow. Where can I
Awesome.
pre-order? This sounds like a great gift for the
I know.
holidays.
Where do we get this fine work?
It's going to be on Amazon. I'm knocking on the door, and it's the first time I've ever done this, so I'm kind of learning as I go. But
Okay.
all right,
pictures
Doug
are being
Morency
drawn as we speak.
All right, so to be pre-order on
Congrats.
Amazon, look up Doug
Yes.
Morency, Night Before Christmas 2. All right, Kristen.
I would just like to go on the record and say that I attempted my first stand-up showcase, and I spent the whole day making this advertisement. I don't know if you could see it, of me as a clown for my Instagram.
Oh my God.
And I spent so long doing it that I did not practice my routine at all, and so did not go. Did not go.
No.
You didn't
But that's
go
a
at
hell
all.
of a poster.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh
Check
my
out
God.
said cloud picture on my Instagram at Kristen Kriste and Drenning DRENN.
All right, Kristen. Now you really do have to come all the way out to LA because Lauren runs a great open mic. It's super supportive. The comics are dirty, but they're not obnoxious. I mean, they're obnoxious, but they're not. They're obnoxious, but they're not insult. No, they're insulting, but they're not cruelly. No, they're cruelly insulting.
No bullies.
There's no bullies, really. I mean, there are bullies, but they're
Yeah, they're the nicest bullies.
All
they're
of
nice
Austin
bullies.
is like
they're
under
not
the
nice, really, but they're there.
It's a
There's
soft
a lot of
bullying.
them there.
Yeah.
like all of Austin's like stand up right now is like in the Joe Rogan school of hard
Oh, for
knocks
sure.
or whatever, and so
Yes,
I definitely
much.
don't want to. So yeah, maybe a trip to LA is in order.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, with a name like
to
Ego
have it.
Death, how can you go wrong?
Seems right to me. Too right.
Yeah. Although what's funny is, I listened to my recording of myself, at Ego Death, and I could actually hear when my ego like fully kicked in and took control. I was like, oh no, my ego was going to get me through that shit. My ego's like, no, I'm not dying. I'm the boss.
Look at me. Yeah.
Look at me. I'm in charge. Oh, you're scared? You're scared? You're scared they're going to laugh at you and not with you? Ego here to take over.
It's a trap. It's a trap I created for myself too. Every time I do it, I'm like,
know.
I hope they liked me.
I
Oh
hope
yeah.
they like me. Oh, fuck.
Ah.
Well, that's our show. Thank you very much. And let's say bye to our listeners. So glad you stuck with us all the way to the end. No free goodies. Bye.
Bye.